Welcome, Guyana. We're proud people. And we have people here from different regions, from Georgetown, from East Coast, from West Bank. And we ain't like Granger, using taxpayers' money to bring people here. I am proud as a Guyanese woman and as a leader of the People's Progressive Party to be on this platform where there are so many young women speaking. It means the future of the PPP rests on the shoulders of the new young people coming up in the party. I am confident and proud to be associated with these young people. And the young men don't feel left out. It's just that we women have to push it a lot of times. Comrades, this is the last lap. 57 days left. After we've been waiting for 380 days. 380 days we've been waiting, and we're now in the last lap, 57 days left. What are we doing here today? We're launching our campaign, and what is it we're doing? We're embarking on Operation Rescue Guyana. It is important that we rescue our nation from the claws and the clutches of Granger and the APNU AFC. We have to take and recognize that the people of our country have the power in their hands. We have the power. We, the people, have the power. And it is that terrifies Granger. He could have decided, he decided that he didn't have to hold elections after 3 months. And despite the Caribbean Court of Justice, he didn't think he had to hold elections after June the 18th to September the 18th. He felt that despite the Caribbean Court of Justice, that he didn't have to resign the cabinet or himself. He disobeyed the Caribbean Court of Justice rules on the caretaker government to not go into new contracts and new agreements, knowing that elections were around the corner. He refused until most recently to dissolve the National Assembly and the regional democratic councils. But we all know, don't we, that if we didn't as a PPP, as we didn't as a people struggle and be vigilant and expose the PNC and Mr. Granger and his agenda, because the agenda was not to have elections until later this year, and who knows, maybe next year. And we were able to undermine that agenda and to make him hold elections on March the 2nd. And so we hold the power. Never ever forget. Because I see last night and the night before, there were a number of activities that affected our comrades who are doing normal party work during elections, going and announcing the political rally for today. And I believe that these are things the PNC wants to do to intimidate people. And we must show, as friends and supporters of the People's Progressive Party, that we shall not be intimidated. We will be proud. We will defend our right to put up our placards, to put up our billboards, to put up our flags. It is our right as Guyanese citizens to do that. And so, no matter what they come up with, we must recognize that in Operation Rescue Guyana, it is all of us as Guyana working towards ensuring that on March the 2nd, we have victory. We have victory. And we have our President, Dr. Irfan Ali. We have our Prime Minister, Brigadier retired Mark Phillips at the helm. And that the PPP will have strong cabinet, strong members of parliament, strong regional democratic councils. because we have to turn this country around. It is amazing to think that this Granger-led government has done all this in the last year. And we in the PPP have been vigilant, we have struggled, we've exposed them, but we have been peaceful. And that is what they keep trying to provoke a situation. And we've not taken the bait. Why? Because we want our people to be united. We don't want division. We want the goodwill that is coming to this party. More than 92, more than 97, more than 2001, more than 2006 and 2011 and 2015. The goodwill that the PPP is being embraced with by the people of this country, I personally have never felt it or as this time. Wherever we go, people are stopping and saying, hurry, hurry. How long? Let's get this election done. We want you all in government. People of all different ethnic backgrounds, all different classes, all different parts of the country. People have suffered in a short 4.5 years with the incompetence and the corruption of this government. Mr. Granger is worried about his legacy, and he wants legacies. Well, the legacy is Durban Park, $1.5 billion, in which the Auditor General says that they can't account for over $500,000 and more. And yet, I understand. I mean, I don't go there, but I understand that the legacy of the Jubilee Park is that it's frequented at night for brothel purposes, for drugs, and for people who have nowhere to live. So that is Granger's legacy that cost the people of this country $1.5 billion. Their incompetence, their abuse of power. Nowhere have we seen the level of corruption in this country as we have now. The corruption of APNU AFC. And even though they're supposed to be a caretaker government, they have given out 30,000 acres of our land, raided the lottery fund, spending money as if it got no tomorrow. And yet, there is nothing. I have never seen a government spend $1.5 trillion in 4.5 years, and we have not one legacy transformative project in our country. Not one. Not one for that amount of money. And so, comrades, we have a duty. We have a duty as Guyanese, no matter where we come from, no matter what our class is, our religion, gender. We have a responsibility and an obligation to put our country right. And no matter how much Mr. Granger talks about the decade of development, is a lot of fluff. Mr. Granger has not come to the people in January, Friday, and said, here are my achievements. This is what we did. Nothing. What he has come with is the next 20 years, when many of us may not be alive in 20 years. But the issue, my dear friends, is that this APNU AFC government led by Mr. Granger, and by the way, Mr. Granger is a retired brigadier. You know that. But you know what? He has never been a chief of staff.
What does it work? What does it work? PPPC. What does it work? PPPC.
And somebody can go ask, why was he never made a chief of staff? By Burnham and by Hoyt. I wonder why. But we got the real McCoy. We got the real
What
McCoy.
does it work? What does it work? PPPC. What does it work? PPPC.
Granger should hang his head in shame. In shame that he took a country and a nation that was healthy, that was economic growth for 8 years consecutively, where the lives of our people were improving, where 100,000 people have been getting house lots, when the number of companies opening and more jobs were being created. He took over a healthy country. But you see, Mr. Granger is the God of small things. The God of small things, of cutting ribbons, of painting buildings green, of branding our country green. And we don't want no iguana green. We tired of looking everywhere and seeing iguana green everywhere. There has never been a government in this country that has painted state buildings the color of party colors. We have not had presidents of this country. Burnham used to wear his military outfit. Never wear his party colors to state activities. Never speak about electoral issues at his state addresses to the nation. This is a man who is consumed with power. Consumed with power. And I'm telling you, we as a people got to decide, where are we going? Do we want democracy? Do we want hope? Do we want to be able to trust our leaders to take us down a path of development? Or do we want to trust a leader who we know is going to take us down the path of dictatorship? And the choice is simple. Let me deal with a couple issues with Mr. Granger. Just to give an idea, they made a lot of promises, a lot of broken promises, and a lot of their supporters are embarrassed. A lot of their supporters are betrayed by the promises that were made by Granger on the 2015 election. And many are embarrassed to come to us, but they're watching and listening to us. And many of them want to see the things that we did, which the Granger administration has thrown away. They want to see those things come back. They want to live a better life. And so Mr. Granger talks about a big tent, that he has this big tent, and that is the definition of his inclusivity. And who's the big tent? PNC, WPA, that got about 3 members in it, the Guyana Action Party, which is dead. They ain't got no party like that anymore. You got Keith Scott Party, which I always forget the name of it. What's it called? Keith Scott? Don't worry with him. He ain't got no party. It's dead long time ago. Then you got the, I think I forget, that's about it. No, Sharma, Justice for All. You got, and then you got AFC. Well, comrades, in the local government elections in 2018, the APNU and the AFC decided to separate and go separately. You remember, we beat APNU by over 47,000 votes in the local government election. And how much did we beat the AFC? Do you remember? 113,000 votes. 113,000 votes. Well, if I was AFC at that point, if I was in the AFC at that point, I'd pack up my bags and go home. Because you're really out of the race. But they're holding on to the coattails of Mr. Granger for Prime Minister work. This big tent is a farce. This thing that he talks about, inclusion, is a farce. How can you have inclusion when you deliberately make sure that people who think different than you, look different than you, are not included in the discussions on the green strategy, on the budget, on a whole range of issues? Look at the level of discrimination. The first acts of this government: fire 1,972 Amerindia Community Service officers. Why? Why fire them? What did they do wrong? Fired over 2,000 public servants who, some for the color of their skin, some for their gender, some they were thought that because they were on the PPP list, they can't be a public servant. And yet, lo and behold, APNU brings in people who are on the candidate list and put them in the public service. Over 2,000 votes positions and jobs lost in the public service. Not satisfied with that, they continue and discriminate. The sugar workers, 7,000 workers lost their jobs. The impact on Burbies and on our foreign currency and on the children and women of those communities. They are so arrogant and uncaring that when they announced they're giving increases to the public servants, and the sugar union said, what about the sugar workers? They haven't had an increase for 4.5 years. What was the response of the government? This arrogant behavior of the corporation has to pay them. And so we have a situation where there's discrimination in jobs. Do you know that before this government came in, 64 women were held very high positions in the public service and the judiciary? All 64 women were terminated by this government. All 64. These were women of very high quality, and women who I'm sure when we get into government will be brought back to work with the People's Progressive Party, because we need women who train people. Comrades, the discrimination wasn't only about jobs, it was about contracts, about procurement. I'm sure in this crowd there are contractors, builders, painters, transport guys who used to get government contracts who have not had a contract for the last 5 years. There are many, many, many people they have been discriminated against. And yet, this government created new companies with their cronies and even organized how to those companies to get the work even when they didn't have the qualifications. We have seen greater marginalization in the poverty gap getting bigger and bigger between those who have and those who have not. And those who have are also losing what they have. And the impact on poverty, the impact of 30,000 people who have lost their jobs must have an impact on the quality of life people are living, what they can buy with their money, what can they pay for. This is the critical issue. Someone had said that this elections is going to be about pocketbook elections, about how people live, what their money is. When you tax people and tax people, everybody is paying more and more of the money they earn in indirect and direct taxes. The number of children who are going to school now with less food in their tummy, with less resources than they had before, is unacceptable because it's a reversal. This is not how it was before. And of course, my dear friends, when they fired the 1,972 community service officers, they removed in 1 year $700 million from the village economies in those communities across Guyana, therefore immediately having an impact of poverty in those communities. And those of you who may want to visit those regions, you will see the increase in poverty as you go. Mr. Granger has done nothing about corruption. Some of the earlier speakers spoke about Durban Park, the drug bond, the millions and billions of dollars of drugs were purchased outside of the procurement arrangements. More and more corruption all the time. The giving away of lands, the amount of land that has been given away, the seizure of land for different projects. We could go on and on and on. But I think to believe that one of the things that will stand out in Granger's legacy, his legacy will be defying the Constitution, defying it over and over and over again, not with the no confidence motion alone. And having not learned at the rally on Friday, Mr. Granger says that they want constitutional reform. And what will they be doing? They will amend the section of the Constitution that deals with a no confidence motion. In other words, you don't want no confidence motions. And that is a fundamental foundation of parliamentary democracy. So why, comrades, do you want the PPP? Why do you want the People's Progressive Party to be in government? Because our track record has shown that we have been able to bring this government, this country out of the depths, not once, like in the 60s, not twice, like 92, but have not only brought it out to the depths, but to move it forward in the most difficult times and to be able to start to see Guyana taking off. We have the track record, we can do it. We have the leaders who can do it. We have the will of you, the people, supporting us. We intend, and other speakers have said, housing programs, the cash care program for children, the removal of the VAT, the removal of the increased licenses and rentals for irrigation drainages. So, comrades, you can be assured that under the People's Progressive Party Civic, in the first day of office, that we will be running a track to bring in all of our programs, put them into order, and get this country back on its feet. And in this Rescue Our Nation, we must rescue our nation from the sticky and authoritarian hands of Granger and the APNU AFC cabal. And we can do it. We, all of us across Guyana, across all the regions, because nobody has transport on any part of Guyana, and nobody has any transport on you, the people of this country. We can do it. Be stronger together for better Guyana. Today, Operation Rescue Guyana starts. And so I call on all Guyanese, patriots who love our country, their navel string buried deep here, that we stand up for our nation, we stand up for democracy, we stand up for progress and prosperity. And we don't allow people to divide us. We don't allow anybody to divide us. We are Guyanese. Whether we Patigi Guyanese, Chinese Guyanese, Indian Guyanese, Afro Guyanese, Mecha Mecha, blend of everything, Amerindian Guyanese. When you cut your blood, what is the color of the blood? Red. We are the people of our country. We have the power to change. We have the power to show our strength on March the 2nd. If everybody goes to vote on election day, March the 2nd, March the 3rd is our victory. Victory on March the 3rd.